Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day wherever you are in this great, great world. We're going to talk about XRP, and we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. And we're going to start with this. So step aside Europe, U.S. energy crisis coming in the years ahead, with 20 million Americans behind on their electric bills. Unfortunately, this is just the first wave of the energy cliff. With the U.S. grid now 40 years old, green energy is killing it. And here's the thing. You can go green, and sure, everybody wants to do that. But you have to have something in place to replace the system that's already going to be shut off. In other words, if you don't want nuclear energy, have something in place to replace it. You can't just go around and shut down energy grids. You can't. And it's ridiculous at this point that that's what they're pushing for. Sweden is saying that there was a massive explosion at the gas pipeline from Russia to Europe, equivalent of 100 kilograms of dynamite. In other words, it was deliberate sabotage. Evil, 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 while in the middle of an energy crisis. If there is a Russian invasion of the Ukraine with tanks and troops crossing the border, there will be no more Nord Stream 2. We will put an end to it. Today, there were 3 major explosions in the Baltic Sea in the Nord Stream gas pipeline. They seem malicious. Someone promised it. And again, now they're pointing the finger at Joe Biden and the White House. But I'm not quite convinced that the U.S. is behind this yet. So leaky Russian gas pipeline draws accusations of sabotage amid an energy crisis, and that's a picture of it right there. And this could catch on fire like what happened in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm sure in a few days that's exactly what will happen. They'll worsen it even worse than it is right now. More like Russia's sabotage to worsen Europe's energy crisis. Poland, by the way, bought gas from Nord Stream. Biden warned exactly of this scenario. So in other words, he already told them this could happen. So did he do it? We don't know yet. Germany resorting to coal power amid the energy crisis. Now, coal is the absolute worst for as far as pollution, but they're reverting back to it. Why? Because they realize that they can't fall into the same group and have a major energy crisis through the winter, where people are freezing to death. It's a shame what's really going on. Privacy and fraud at sea. The big dreams of crypto visionaries. How index funds triumphed. A crisis for electric cars and more. And here's the thing. Because of this energy crisis, all of a sudden EVs don't look quite as good as they used to. How can you charge the vehicle if you can't get the energy to do it? And if you can't get that energy cheap? People don't want to pay massive electric bills to power up their electric vehicles. We're headed towards 5% interest rates for the first time since the financial crisis. George Nixon from The Times says a real panic is beginning to show among mortgage borrowers. And again, we're headed for a housing crisis. People keep telling me outside of crypto, well, I think I'm going to buy a house next year before all the houses are bought up. I tell them, maybe you want to wait until next year because by then the housing crisis will have set in and the prices, I'm sure, will come down. And then there's this. Corruption is causing the housing crisis. And we take a look. Monopoly. BlackRock buys up U.S. homes at massive prices. Homeowners can't compete. Why? To make us all renters for life. Gee, how did they get so much money? Congress, of course. They've been printing it for years and giving it to them. And that's exactly what's going on. Prices of houses should never be where they're at right now, especially when people's income is not matching to those housing prices. New tax on vacant homes, all you need to know if you have one. So they have a tax that's aimed at increasing the number of residential properties in the housing crisis. They're still pushing that scenario that there's not enough housing because they want you to buy right now at an all-time high, and they want you to buy today. And I see it all the time from realtors. They always say, Now's the time to buy a house. Now's the best time to buy a house. You got to get that house today. I'm telling you, because we got into crypto, we know better. Because we're used to buying the dip. And people inside of crypto are becoming the smartest people in the room time and time again. Because we all see what's coming before it gets here. CBDC doesn't feel very free, especially by Powell's and the Fed's description. Why do we keep letting the Fed steer the ship? It's one financial iceberg after another. Do people actually think they will get CBDCs right? Of course they won't. Powell did elaborate that if adopted, a U.S. CBDC would have several key characteristics: intermediated, privacy protected, identity verified, and inoperable. So we kind of see that they understand the CBDC at least. Fed chairman confirms that a U.S. CBDC would not be anonymous. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said that a central bank digital currency in the U.S. would not be anonymous during an event hosted by the Bank of France on Tuesday. So then what happened was he went on to say that maybe they're changing their mind about a US CBDC, that maybe now is not the time. But the thing is, he's going to go ahead with it anyway, and I could tell you why, because things are heating up with the Brics. The US cannot be left behind. They will lose the currency war. Brics. The I in Brics is for India, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Now, out of those countries, we know XRP is tied to Brazil. We know it's tied to India and South Africa. And I do believe China is most likely going to go with XRP as well as Russia. At some point, we'll get an announcement on that. Because they know the best way to move that money is through XRP. And then this happened. So Saudi Arabia's powerful crown prince has been named prime minister, a post traditionally held by the king. And all of a sudden, everybody rejoiced. And then this happened. Brics waiting for Saudis to drop the USD as the central exchange currency for oil, and it's game over US. That's how fast this can change. So while Jerome Powell is saying that maybe now's not the time to release a US CBDC, he's going to have no choice but to do it in the very near future. Because let's say the Brics doesn't use XRP. How do you compete with a gold-backed currency when the US dollar is backed by nothing? You have to use something that can compete with that. What is that? XRP, the gold standard. Dow and S&P 500 fall for the sixth straight day on Tuesday on recession jitters. Now, I believe the Dow is ready to take that hit that we're all kind of waiting for years. At some point, the Dow is going to continue to drop, I believe, for at least 8 to 10 years straight. Because I believe it's due for a correction. The one big announcement I'm waiting for is that for ethical reasons, politicians are pulling their money out of the stock market. The day you hear that, you better get to the bank very fast, because right after that, I believe the stock market is going to crash. CBDC is the future, whether you like it or not. I don't understand what Bitcoin maxis must be thinking. The US and all the other countries letting their currencies fall and just use Bitcoin. I mean, That's why XRP will succeed and Bitcoin will learn it the hard way. And then I went on to read this. U.S. Bitcoin mining pollutes as much as 6 million cars annually. So you could already guess where that's headed. Bitcoin mining in the U.S. at some point, they will come out and make it a federal law that you can't mine Bitcoin. Because let's face it, everything is about going green right now. They're not going to allow people to continue mining Bitcoin in an energy crisis. They'll just push the prices up so it's not even feasible to mine Bitcoin. We set ourselves up for failure the day Nixon took us off the gold standard. Up until then, every dollar had to be backed by gold. After that, they cranked up the printers and never looked back. And here we are now. That's why I'm telling you, when you have paper backed by nothing, you can't compete with something that is backed by gold. You just can't. De-dollarization, paper money credit system not backed by valuable asset will end. All countries will be free of debts from the US dollar debt-based system. All countries will go back to the gold standard. World change has begun. Be aware. Gold XRP. Mr. Kiyosaki is spot on, and the Brics nations are right to do so. Put the world back on the gold standard, tokenize the value, and use something like XRP as a medium. The West is behind and losing its advantage. That's why we're all of a sudden going to hear some major announcement come from the Fed. Most likely the XRP or the Ripple SEC case will just end, because it's going to be an emergency situation the day all of those countries pull out of the US dollar. Then they'll usher in that CBDC as quick as they can and get us back in the game. And yet, I was called crazy when I said we are going back to the gold standard led by the Brics in the gold room in Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods. This is where the Bretton Woods agreements were signed. That's the original table and chairs, unchanged since 1944. We are close to a new system where gold again plays a role than most realize. And you have to keep your eyes open to this, because I'm telling you, the day they pull out of the US dollar, things are going to move very, very fast. And keep an eye on when politicians say they're going to pull out of the stock market for ethical reasons, because right after that, that stock market is going down. With that said, we're going to wrap up today's video. I want to thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.